All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Reverend Kenneth Price, and I'm here with Reverend Dale Blackford. As in, you can see above both of us, this is our weekly, well, actually, this is his weekly Zoom. I want to say Zoom call. It's not really a call. It's more of a Zoom lecture or a Zoom. It's not a sermon. It's not a lecture. How about a talk? This is Reverend Dale Blackford's weekly talk, Freedom from Suffering. This is Sunday, September 8th. And Dale is, let's see, how do we describe Dale? You can't describe him. Words will not. Dale's been a unity minister for decades and decades, and he speaks at a very deep level. And this is, I think, why I was attracted to him 15 years ago. He goes very, very deep. But if we don't go deep, what's the point? if we don't go down into these places, then we're simply skipping over them. We're metaphysically ghosting. We're spiritually bypassed. But this is what I know about my own path in life: is that when we go deep, that's where the pearls are. We have to dive deep for the pearls, and oftentimes it means we're going to have to discuss some of the things that most spiritual and maybe religious. We're not religious, but I don't want to put anybody in a category, don't want to talk about. They would rather it doesn't exist. Well, guess what? It does exist. And Dale's willing to talk about it. And he's willing to go down there and he's willing to bring it up so we can take a look at it. And this is what I like about Dale, because after we've taken a look at it, it doesn't appear to be as frightening as what we were running from. As a matter of fact, usually it sort of dissolves into an illusion. And that is what attracted him to me 15 years ago, because he helped me take a look at some of the deepest, darkest secrets that I was holding on to, and none of them turned out to be true. So, Dale, here's your introduction for Sunday, September 8th. Let's go pearl diving this afternoon. What can you share with us?
Well, let's see. Some stuff's been coming to me about space time, but I think the thing that's really interesting to me is that where life is complete and full and rich and blessed and everything that the religions all talk about going to, what they call heaven or something like that, is present moment awareness. It's being able to stay in the moment that is right before you. And I don't mean lots of moments, there's only one moment, but being able to actually be in the moment right before you right now. And there's very few people who can do that, and hardly any. In fact, that's why, in Krishna, I go back to Krishnamurti saying, world would change if 10 people could, in 1983, if 10 people could just listen. People think they listen, but you can't listen. You can't listen if you're making sense out of what you think you're hearing. That's not listening. Listening is actually like giving birth. It's like approaching something like a native that had never, like the natives that saw Captain Cook's ships coming across, and they couldn't even see the ships because they had no frame of reference to frame them within. So they had to experience whatever it was, however they saw it, instantaneously in the moment. There was no inner dialogue about what was going on. And when we listen to someone and we're reflecting on their words and what they're saying to us, trying to understand them, that's not listening. To understand us in our madness is not really that helpful. To understand a person in their madness from your madness, I mean, you might think that that's kind of sane, because in the realm of time, space, or karma, whatever you want to call it, that's the goal. The goal is to try and somehow slow down time and space enough so that you can kind of like get a control on it in this uncontrollable thing that you created. So if you want, the whole goal is to be present. That's where everything is, where perfection is, and that's where end of suffering is. That's where wholeness is. That's where Jesus was hanging out. That's where Krishnamurti was hanging out, was in the present moment. And to get into to do that, it's an interesting thing, because that's when we start looking at the lies, because we say we want peace, we say we want freedom, we say we want to go with the flow, but we lie. We lie. That is not what we want. We want just a little better control with a little less work. And that's not the present moment. The present moment is here and now. And this is where time space ends. Time space ends in the present moment. I mean, because your mind's no longer distracted by concepts of what was yesterday, what was, and what will be, and the whole idea that there's a process of putting that all together that moves, into what you think is the now, and but your mind is stuck in that process of moving from what was, which you don't really know what was anyways. That's all perception and false perception, into what will be, which is also false perception. And so basically, you're looking at how you're gonna script the amusement park, how you're gonna script the ride, not ever really looking at the fact that it's a ride. It's not reality. It's a ride. It's a distraction. Is it a bad distraction? No, but it is a distraction. It's the drug. It's the drug. When we die, we go cold turkey. We're off the drug. When we physically die, we're off the drug. That's why for many people dying, they don't want to do it. And when they get into it, they fight it like hell because it's a certain, that's where my dad, when before he died, and I didn't realize that's what he was saying. He knew he was going to die. He said, I never saw the man have any fear till that day, that night, 11 o'clock at night, after surgery for 5 hours to remove his leg. He said, Dale, I never thought it could be so hard because he knew right then he was facing coming to the moment and letting go of time, space, letting go of plans, letting go of ideas, what was, roles, all that, and be in the present moment, which is actually bliss. But it scares the hell out of us because we're addicted to time, space, to the concept of time, space, and how to manipulate that and how to maneuver in it. And all the conversations are about that. Pretty much, they're all about that. There's even the conversation about the present moment isn't really a conversation. It's just stopping. And you come into the present moment not from stopping your thinking, but preferring the present moment awareness to your thinking. Like an alcoholic who's hit rock bottom finally prefers not to drink. They could drink, but they get that the drinking is going to do something that they just can't do anymore. And they want to do something else they've seen. When you hit rock bottom, you see it, whether it's drugs or alcohol or it's life. When you hit rock death, when you hit rock bottom, you see it. But you can see it before that. That's what we're doing this program. You can see it now. Many of us are starting to see it, and we're starting to talk about it, and Jesus said, "Know the truth. The truth will make you free." The conversation right now together is about knowing the truth about the lies. You got to know the truth about the lies. Knowing the truth about what is pretty simple. It's there. It's the distractions of all the lies we hold that keeps us from seeing it. So you have to know the truth about the lies. When you like when I first met you, and you're not the only one, me too. When I first met you and you were in such sorry shape, supposedly, and you were in such pain and you were in such a bad place. And I could see you and I could go, well, I get that's your story, but and I get that that's an important story for you, but I also can see that that's not who you are. I can see who you are, and I can see how this story even is part of part free as how it frees you. So I can see that. So I'm going to stay in the moment with you. Emerson saying, "Do not say things. What you are stands beside you all the while and thunders so loud, I cannot hear what you say to the contrary." I cannot hear it because what you are thunders so loud, cannot hear what you say to the contrary. And there's a number of us on this planet that are starting to wake up to that, really starting to see that this humility, this surrender that says, I can't, you can't escape perception. You can't escape attachment to self. You can't escape any of that, but you can drop it. You can drop it. You just can't escape it because escape it is within the realm of it. And you can but you can drop it. Like I did with that other guy when he was telling me his stories about how he was sure he's going to die because a girlfriend is going to leave him. And I listened to his story and I said, yeah, that's a story. That could be true. That could be true. Because in the realm of time, space, that could be true. And then after he told it to me enough times, I finally said, "You're asking for my help, okay? I get your story. I'm saying that could be true in relativity. That could be true, okay? I want to ask you some questions beyond relativity. Are you up for that? Because you say you want to be free. If you want to be free, really free, you're going to have to look at what it's like to drop something, to actually drop it. You're going to have to start looking at that. Does that mean you have to drop it right away? Hell no, because you're scared. Everybody's scared as hell about it. That they'll lose their life, and they will lose their life. The life they're crafting, you lose that completely. Just as assuredly as you lose your life when you physically die. It's the
Dale,
same thing.
can we stop on that one note right there? Because you shared with me that this man came to you and he had this story fabricated like we all do. I guess he was going to die without a girlfriend, and you walked him through, into a truer story than that. And I'm wondering, this might be good for some participation right here, because even as one of the things that has, when you met me 15 years ago, I was deeply immersed in a very painful story. Now, 15 years later, that story is not got the jolt, the does not have the power over this man that it once did. But I have to be honest with you, Dale. That story has never left, and it was a story about loss from my family, betrayal. It was just very similar. But I was a very young man. I was only 21 when the calamity, when the family fracture took place, and I was blamed for it. And by some family members, have said, we'll never speak to you again. I'm 57 and I'm still being blamed for it. So that's a story which would be very similar to the one that this person came to you with. So might we actually do an exercise? Because I think you and I have done exercises in the past, and how I might be able to find out a story that's truer than the one that seems to be looping up here in my own head. I mean, over the years, I've done all the work, trying to reframe it. For example, how was it? Instead of being the worst thing that happened to me, it was the best thing. Well, obviously, it woke. I got a jolt when I was a young man. And I became a minister as a senior. But I got to be honest with you. The story's still there. It runs in the background, sort of like a looping tape. And I observe it. I listen to all of your lectures. I observe it very carefully, and I say, okay, we all know what that is. That's the ego. That's just the monkey on my back. Still, I often do wonder, is there something that I'm still missing? Do these way showers and these mystics, have they completely transcended their stories? Or do they still have stories running in the background? I don't know if that was a question, but I just wanted to bring in a little bit of participation, because I listened to what you share and what you are sharing. And the reason I listened to it, here's another thing. I don't think if it wasn't for that story, I don't think I would be listening to you. I'd be out there, having a good old time, being, a successful caterpillar. But that story very much, alchemized my caterpillar to where I have to ask these questions. I have to listen carefully. I have to find out, more about this present moment dynamic, which I know that's the freedom from suffering. I know it deep inside. I have to admit, I haven't found it on most days. I get windows of it, but on most days it still seems like a concept.
Yeah. And that whole thing you described is of people breaking through this, that is like that story you're talking about, of holding on, seeing it's there and stuff like that, and the frustration of that. Oh man, that's what everybody says. Everybody says that because that's what goes on. The only difference between a person who's I don't want to say enlightened, but a person who's finding freedom from that and the person who isn't, is the person who's finding freedom from that has started to discover that they have another story they like better. They like better. It's kind of like, reminds me of my daughter. I've used that one too, where she and her girlfriend thought they lost the girlfriend's cell phone, and they're just picking it apart. Like, oh, they left it at this drugstore, and someone's probably got it, and they're calling, and she'll never get it back. On and on and on and on and on. They were whoa, 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 da 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 da. I was sitting I was just sitting watching a football game. I was up for the weekend, just relaxing there, and they kept going on and on. They'd check back at the drugstore and they say gun, they just say it's gone, and they'd be going like, ah, damn, life's like that. It's gone, it's gone. And I finally said, well, I asked a couple things. I said, have you tried calling? And they're going, oh yeah, Dad, we call, we can't. Like, it's gone, it's gone. And I said, well, maybe, maybe it's somewhere it just hasn't been found yet. Maybe it's just somewhere lying and it hasn't been found yet. And she's going like, Dad, it's gone. The phone is gone. Someone's got it right now. And she kept going on like that. And I was saying, well, maybe it hasn't been found. And she kept like hammering me with that. And finally, I'm watching the game, and I was probably insight because I wasn't, I was listening, kind of half-ass listening to the story of what it was because I know that story, that drama. And finally, I just said to her, I said, her name is Nisha. I said, Nisha, I like my story better than yours. And she started laughing and broke the tension. And honest to God, less than 1 minute later, she got a phone call from her girlfriend on that cell phone that she had found. Less than a minute, because I liked my story better. And she eventually, at that point, liked the story better. When we're in this place right now, all the stuff that runs in the background, and even though we're aware, as long as we are preferring, and which means we're attached to the story of who we grew up thinking we are, a self, a son, a member of a family, something of like how we're attached to the earth, and that whole thing about a family dynamics, everything like that. It creates the sense of self and life and world. As long as we have that attachment, that story is going to still be there. When it starts to end is not because you deny the story or you say that's a lie. Of course it's a lie. Of course it's a lie, but that's not going to help you because you prefer lies. We prefer lies because they're familiar lies, and we have a lot of support for it. Like everybody in the world is going to support us in our lies, saying this is who we are. You get in religion, they'll even get worse. They'll say, not only that, you have no power at all except through Jesus or through some deity or something like that that's going to rescue you, save you. What a crock. Okay.
So as I listen
But
to you, this is good. As I listen to you, it it's very clear. I mean, this is why I listen to you because I keep. It's kind of like it's dissolving the viscosity of the story, which in my case obviously has grown extraordinarily painful. It's actually a fear. Maybe Byron Katie 101. Who would I be without that story? I guess it comes
right.
down to that. And
Yeah.
I guess the
And
only way I can answer is I don't know. And Byron Katie runs her participants through exercises. Let's explore who you would be without that story. But you're right. That story seems to have solidified into a sense of self. I am the victim of a fill in the blank. Now, of course,
right.
because I'm supposed to be a minister, I say, well, God, I don't want to admit I'm a victim. Let's put that aside and go help other people. But no, if I want to get transparent and honest, I will tell the world and all the YouTube audience that I'm still holding on to a story, and it's a preferable because not because I want to be maybe at some ontological subconscious level there is a some Freudian desire for victimhood. But from your lecture, it's because basically, fear of the present moment. Maybe it's a fear of God. I don't know. I just thought I'd kind of throw that in because it seems to be tying into a lot of what you're discussing. And I'll let you keep going because this is your Zoom call, but I like what you're sharing.
Well, who would you be without it? It starts with not looking at upside, like who large would you be without it? Because that's a mystery. You have no idea. I mean, you haven't been living in consciously in that perfection. So who would you be without that? Awfully hard to see. What you can see though is who would you be without it if you weren't living with all the shit that happens while you're living with who you think you are? Who would you be without that? Who would you be without? What would you be like if the other shoe never dropped? What would you be like if there was never a problem? What would you be like if there was never anything that required you to fix it, to solve it, to intervene, to change it? even the serenity prayer, it cracks me up when I do the serenity prayer. God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I look at that and I go, nonsense. Give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Well, that's everything. I mean, reality, you can't change reality. Reality is perfection. The courage to change the things I can. What's the other one?
And the wisdom to
Just
know the difference.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, which is everything. The courage to change the things I can. Why would I change anything if it's perfection? Why would I change anything? If all roads lead to Rome, which they do in the sense of spiritual awareness and freedom, if all roads lead to Rome, why would I change anything? Why would I use one bit of energy to try and change anything? I would use every bit of my energy to be present with what is happening because it's all perfection. Now, to live in that place, if you can start to see that, and you want to trade that for the realm that you're in, which is you got to be on guard all the time and make sure that you make up for the things that you did or could happen to you, like could happen to you again. I mean, that whole drama of time space is like, that's why, Einstein's saying your most important decision is, are you going to live in a friendly or a hostile universe? You can live in a totally friendly universe, or you can live in a hostile universe. Everybody picks the hostile universe. Everybody picks the hostile universe.
And what you just said landed. Okay, that you answered my question. That's what I said in the beginning. You go around the wagons and then you go in for the kill. That wasn't a very good analogy, but you answered my question because and when I was listening to you, I'm asking. Suddenly, I began to ask myself, did anything go wrong? The real question maybe should be, why do I believe that something was right? It's the core belief that families are supposed to stay together. Well, good luck with that. Maybe in some fairy tale lands, families are supposed to, be like the Brady Bunch, but I don't. Maybe that's it. It's a core belief that families are supposed to be united. Now, in my experience, that's simply not the case. And as long as I'm fighting these windmills, these beliefs that families are supposed to stay united, I'm not in the present moment. You're right. I keep going.
Well,
I jumped in there.
with the limit of that is that because we're all one, so we are not just family. The whole family of mankind is together. But how
You see
that
the
picks
big
out is
picture.
like there's all these rules about how it should look, what it should look like, what my
Rules.
little clan should look like, and there should be a clan. And we were starting to look at everything and saying, okay, all kinds of things are happening in the world, and there's an order to it all. It's all opening all of mankind or human thought, whatever presence, opening I am to the present moment, all of it. That is safe. Now, but see, this is the thing. Like I'm talking about this because people, and most people, you say that people, I talk heavy or something like I do kind of way because I talk to your soul and your spirit, and I'm basically asking questions about that, and like in this world, like for instance, nowadays with the Gen Zers and all the stuff like that. Oh man, nobody knows how to communicate. They don't know how to communicate. They don't even know how to simply communicate on the here and now, like not the here and now, but the time space thing. And when I try to communicate with people, a lot of times I just say I try to clarify the fuzziness by asking questions. People don't like that. They don't like that. I mean, I went to a store one time and I was clarifying that about I forget what it was like they had raised the price for we've been getting salads there and they raised their price a bunch for because my partner liked salads with separate components so she could mix them, and they raised their prices all of a sudden, and they said because for doing that, for separating the items. And so I'm going like, well, why are you doing that? What's the impetus for that? And she's saying, well, the cost. And I said, I'm going like, the cost of what? Doing it? I mean, that's part of service, isn't it? And she said, well, there's the cost of the little plastic things that we put them in. I'm going, well, how much can those things cost? Maybe like 50 of them for 10 cents, maybe. And I said, I mean, that can't be what is, it's like, what is, I'm basically asking what's the impetus for it. And the more that they gave me kind of bullshit ones, the more I'd sit there and go, kind of like poke at it and go, I don't think there's anything real there. And finally, the woman said, what did she say? She said something like, if you don't, it was like she'd stop it or I'm going to call security. And I said, why would you call security? And she says, that's it. She calls security. And there's one customer in the store, an Asian woman with her baby that I had let in the store was having trouble getting through like 4 or 5 young people who were totally oblivious to her and were blocking the door. And I helped her get through. The others left. There was one guy in the store. And so this security guy comes up and he's just like, he's like he looks like he's slacking. He doesn't look like he didn't even know why there. And as soon as he walks in, I just said to him, I asked him, I said, do you know why you're here? Do you know why you've been called? And he's like, he just goes, what? I said, do you know why you've been called? He said, well, I guess there was a problem here. Okay. Do you know what the problem is? He said, no, I guess not. No. And the woman says, the manager, the woman over says, he's bothering the customers. So I turn to the gal, the Asian gal, and I say, excuse me, ma'am, am I bothering you? And she says like this, she's like, please don't ask me that because and she does say, no, you're not bothering me because it's like, I don't want to be involved in this because it's deeper than I want to go, deeper than I want to go. Communication. And she's like, no, he's not bothering me. And finally, I just said, oh, well, I'm leaving, I guess, because I get this is hard on you all, and I'm going to leave. And I've had stuff like that more often than not, where lots of times, I mean, some to the point uh, where people basically play the game with me real hard on me, and I'm going like, okay, if you're going to play that game with me, I'm going to do inquiry with you. I'm not going to say no to it. I'm not going to fight. I'm going to ask what's really going on here. And they don't want to hear that. People do not want to hear that because it messes with their control of illusion. It messes with it. And they're trying desperately to hold on to it, to hold on to their sense of what they think their life is about, what they think is right and wrong, what they think they're here for, what order of society, all of that. And if you mess with that by asking, that's why they killed Jesus. Jesus didn't do anything bad, but he kept asking questions and he kept poking into the realities of whatever they were doing. And finally they said, that's enough. Kill this son of a bitch. Kill him. He is upsetting the apple cart. What was he doing? He kept bringing reality to light. If you bring reality to light, and that's the first thing you have to know when you're looking at your own stuff, is as you bring reality to light, don't be surprised if you get pissed off by it. I do. I get pissed off, but the nice thing now is when I get pissed off, it's like this. It's like I get pissed off and it's like the voice within me says, "What are you angry about?" And I go, "Well, because I'm angry about the illusion, aren't I? I'm angry that it's not playing out the way that I think in the world it should play out." And is that what you've agreed that you're linked up to? Is that the friendly universe that you're hooked into, Dale? I went, no, that's back into the hostile one. Isn't I can't do anything about that, can I? I can't go there. I'm angry. Maybe I'm angry because I can't go there anymore. Maybe I'm angry because I really would like to be able to throw some punches in this world, affect some changes and stuff like that. And I realize there's no change to be done. And I'm just fooling myself. And I've already made that commitment that I'm in a friendly universe. So if in a friendly universe, when it comes back to hostility, there's always only one answer. If you're in a friendly universe over a hostile one, if you experience something that's wrong or doesn't feel right or doesn't look right or anything like that, if you live in a friendly universe, there's only one answer you got for that. You know what that is? I'm not seeing something. I'm blinded here. I'm not seeing something. I'm only seeing my perception about what I think I'm seeing. Because if I could see it, I would be going like, oh, well, there's order in this, isn't there? There's perfection in this, isn't there? It's freedom in this, isn't there? Oh. But what I'm seeing is my attachment still, which you started with that whole thing about looking back at your life, looking at the parts of my life that are still attached to that and that are coming out, you know? And that's where the ego becomes a wonderful friend, because as you become friends with the ego and the ego starts to understand you, it's not like a separate person, but you are having the, you know, if you're doing this, if you're trapped in the sense of like totally called it like two must be more than two of us. Of course, there's more than two of us because we're choosing to have that. But just basically make it two. Make it the ego and make it the reality. Make it I am. Okay. When you're thinking or trapped in your thinking and your perception, okay, that's going to look crazy. It's going to feel crazy. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It's like in the original sense with ego would wrap around, for most people still does this, wraps around it. The ego grabs it and says, well, this is what you need to do because your life is in peril. What you've worked for, what you've earned, what you want, your dreams, your goals, your vision, all of it's in threat if you don't take care of business. You need to take care of this business. You need to, and here it is. It's showing up from your past to your future. This is what's happens. You know, we all agreed on that. Okay, well, once you start losing that, like the dark night of the soul for me, where I basically, or like you hit rock bottom, is really what it is. You hit rock bottom. You know, when that happens, then you reach this place where you go, I don't have any more juice for that. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I really don't have any vision. I don't know what to do. And then, that's when the struggle with not the struggle, but the conversation started deepening with my ego with me, where my ego is sitting there, screaming at me, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I'm going, unconsciously, nervous tick. I'm going, I don't know. 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 And it couldn't even see it. I don't know. I don't know. Because it's the only thing I could say. It's like I had nothing in me that could say, well, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to try harder. I'm going to see if I can get some help. It was just going like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Because there was nothing there. I saw no vision at that point. All right. The hostile universe had no juice for it anymore. The friendly universe was opening. Finally, the ego goes, you can't do any of this stuff after, months and months and months of it, because you can't do any of this, can you? And I go, no, I can't. God, I'm so grateful you can see that I can't. And then, then it says, well, should I even exist anymore? And I'm going like, well, that's not my call. I don't construct and deconstruct egos. I obviously constructed you, but I'm not getting instruction to leave you or to destroy you. I mean, I don't even see how to do that. So the whole thing is, I don't know. Of course, you do what you do. And the ego says, I can still scream and yell at you and tell you when the danger, Will Robinson, danger, Will Robinson. I can go, sure you can. That's what you were made for. But you have to know that I can't respond to danger, Will Robinson. You know that, right? You see that. You see that I can't really respond to that anymore. All I can say is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. All I can do is say, well, the circumstance is going to come and you're going to really wish you hadn't reached this circumstance. It's going to kick you in the ass. And I'm going like, well, I got 100% track record for facing circumstance, and it's the only option I have. That's the big one. Isn't it just, and I saw that I had 100% track record of successfully dealing with circumstance, but that was later. The only real tact I had was I had no other option. When you have no other option, when your bridges are burned, then you can't go back. You cannot go back. You may not know where you're going, which I didn't, but you cannot go back. And that's when the ego is going, you can't go back there, can you? You can't do any of that, can you? And I'm going, no, I can't. Well, do I exist anywhere? Should I exist anywhere? I don't know. I guess you should exist because you're here. I still made you. God hasn't taken you away, dissolved you. I'm still seeing you. And then, months and months and months and months later, then I saw that in this further evolution of looking at the things inside of me that I was still attached to, that I didn't know I was still attached so strongly to. Even though I'm waking up, I can still feel on a physical, emotional level, the things that I'm, tied to old thoughts that I'm unconscious of, that I still attach to. Not that I believe in really so strongly anymore, but believe in enough to not let them go unconsciously. That's when the ego started going like, well, how about this one? And it started being more, it's like even very happily cooperative, like bringing stuff up when situations in the world would happen and go, well, I think you have a reaction to this one, don't you? You don't like how this is playing out, do you? And I'm going, no, I don't. I didn't see that. I don't like that. So, okay, so is that a friend? Is that a hostile universe then? I'm going, no. Wow. I'm attached to that, aren't I? That one, oh God, it's unconscious. It's there. There's no reason for it. Other than what I planted it with, but it is a lie. Yeah, it is a lie. And that's where the truth starts setting you free, is when you look at things and you see that they're lies. You don't have to figure out how to get rid of them, but you do have to look at them and say, you know what? Yeah, no, I don't know that, or no, you don't have to say it's a lie. All you have to really say is something like, I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that's really true. I can't say that that's really true, which opens that doubt, opens the possibility of seeing it, which is, this is how we evolve, how we do things as we're evolving on this planet, is noticing things. We start noticing things with that willingness to see, even when we react. You can there's so many times where I can go, I mean, I can explode at something and go, God damn, I hate that, hate that, hate that. I'm so tired of this. And then I could do that now, and still, then when I say it, I'm going like, tired of what, Dale? I'm going like, what you want to have happen, isn't it? And what you don't want to have happen. I'm tired of feeling like I still have to do that. And I know that I can't. And I know that I won't. And yet I'm still trying to fight it. Wow. That's interesting. That is a truth there. You start looking at things like that. And you leave them open-ended. If a lie is a lie, you don't need to. That's the thing. You don't have to fix lies. Lies dissolve of themselves when you start pulling away your insistence upon believing in them and supporting them and being unconscious to their effects. That's why, like alcoholism, for instance, I'm in 12-step groups because I love the groups and stuff. But addiction is an interesting thing, because I'll tell you right now, I have a lot more faith in like for breakthrough for someone who is actually acting out in their addiction and noticing the effects of it, than someone who stands up after 30 years and says, this is my 30-year chip, and I haven't had a drink, but boy, I know the addict in me is right there waiting to jump on me. That's crazy. That's crazy. It'd be much better that you let the addict jump on you and you go,
I
what am
went
I
to
getting out of this?
I went to a Course in Miracles. I'm down here in Namaste. I went to a Course in Miracles class over the week, and this woman was leading it, and she said, "I've read this passage 50 times. So have you got it yet?" That's it. I mean, it's the same thing here. If it's 12 steps or Course in Miracles, I mean, after 50 times, maybe it's time we rethink this. I don't think the Course in Miracles is designed for us to just keep reading it. And you've said this before. It finally dawned on me that I mean, if I failed at this world, I mean, according to the world standards, I'm one of these caterpillar failures. And then I pick up the Course in Miracles, and I only found that woman because noticed that because it was my story too. I read it and read it and read it, and nothing was happening. Nothing. So I finally said, I surrender. Even the Course in Miracles. I mean, if life's an impossible situation, now I've discovered the Course in Miracles is an impossible situation. And that's when it began to come to life. When I had to surrender, even achieving anything spiritual. And that's what you said in one of your lectures years ago. You said you had been tied up to was it a biofeedback machine?
Right.
Weren't you supposed to try it, no, try it, no, try it, no. And I think you finally just gave up. And then you got a beep.
Yeah, it worked. And then my first thought was, how'd I do that? And it quit working again. Instantly, instantly. It took me, it was a 6 week one, and it took me 6 weeks ongoing, 2 sessions, hours a week to get to a point in the last 15 minutes where I went, I give up. And all of a sudden I broke through. And then immediately I said, how'd I do that? And he went, well, it shut down. How'd I do that? How'd I do that?
I've never forgotten that.
That's
You
how
said
it
that in one
works.
of your lectures. I know.
Well, and I don't, if you look at the Course in Miracles, that's why a lot of, why I quit really. I don't really go to any Course in Miracles meetings because most all of them they're working on it, and the Course in Miracles seems to me
Yeah.
like it's pretty clear. It's like it's just telling you what's reality and what isn't. That's what it's doing, and it's like if you read that and you look at that, then the next step is to start asking yourself what it is about you that's holding on to the illusion, and look at it. I mean, it isn't wrong to hold into the illusion, but it is what causes the pain and the suffering and the time space, the growth, like
Well,
spiritual growth, which
I
is
didn't
a farce.
I didn't go towards the Course in Miracles because I wanted to become a Course in Miracles teacher because I wanted something to do. I went there because I was looking for a goddamn solution to this. And from I found a solution in the Course in Miracles. I haven't picked up the book in years. Because it gave me a solution. People say, well, have you done 365 lessons? No, I don't need to. I figured out. Jesus is telling us this world's not a reality. Don't believe it. And that's what your mind training looks like. Does it have to be 365 daily lessons? In my highly individualized curriculum, the answer is no. And I'll tell you why. Because, I don't know if I told you, back in 2019, I was really dragging. And I think, I was calling everybody else saying, you guys, I really need help. I got a screaming voice inside of my head, that won't stop. And I found a hairband on the grass at Dog Park in Portland, Oregon, and I threw it away. And the next day, same, Groundhog Day. I got out of bed, got a cup of coffee, went on a walk, and said, it really hurts again. Nothing's changed. And I found another hairband on the spring water corridor. And this is 5 years later, and I have over there in my altar, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these little worthless fabric rubber bands. And people may think that's just a coincidence, but I went to AI and I asked what are the odds, specific odds. I plugged in all the parameters. I know statistics. I plugged in all the parameters. Artificial intelligence came back to me and confirmed that the possibility of one man finding this many of the same items in these specific locations and having hundreds of them after the specific point in time is one with about 1,000 zeros. So now that I've anchored an anomaly, a rip in the fabric of space-time, an actual miracle, every time I find a fabric rubber band, that's my mind training. I can't, he can, I think I'll let him surrender, suit up and show up. That's it. That's what my mind training looks
Yeah.
like. I don't need 365 daily lessons. I think they're
No,
great.
that's
I wish I could do them.
yeah, that's kind of goofy. It's like I know on the internet, I remember someone for a while I was getting messages from meditation group, and they would be passing all these messages down. They'd be saying, "Oh, I've meditated now for 50 days straight," and I'm sitting there going like, "Why? Who cares? I mean, what does that do for you? That's like another list. I've made a list of something, and and now I'm in control of it. Well, I meditated for 50 days, and now I'm in control of what? Your peace? I don't know. I mean, I don't meditate. I don't really meditate anymore, although I do, I guess, because I'm more, every time I'm like now, I'm aware and I'm noticing. That's meditation to me because it's like, it's quiet and it's, everything, an insight comes in, and and thought just kind of like clouds passes by, and I don't really attach to it. So it's like prayer without ceasing, I guess, meditation without ceasing, because the present moment is so delightful, it's so peaceful. I mean, that's where the freedom is in the present moment. The only question I really ask myself that has any meaning, you know what that is? In this world, I have one question that has a lot of meaning to me, and that is this. Dale, right now, are you okay? And I go, yeah, I'm okay right now. And it's like the universe says, what more do you want? You're okay right now. In the moment, you're okay right now. And all the rest is periphery. All the rest are the stories about where you could go, the places I'd go, the things I'd do. Am I okay right now? You could have a tremendous disaster in the world's stage or success, and all you could is still ask yourself and say, are you okay right now? Yeah, like yeah, I'm okay. If you could, it's just, and you were saying about succeed in the world. I mean, to succeed in the world, I don't know. I don't think succeeding in the world is actually, I think that's a pretty insane thing. Jesus said, be in the world, but not of it. So if you're in the world, but you're not of it, what does your succeeding in the world look like if you're in this world, but you're not of it?
That's a
That
really
would
good
be,
question. I would like to know the answer to that question. How do we reconcile this success in the world with what Master Teacher was saying 2,000 years ago? I like that one.
yeah. Well, look at Jesus. I mean, I think, he was crucified and tortured and crucified, murdered. You could look at that pretty, particularly before, or if you don't even believe in whatever the resurrection was, you could look at that and go, man, he failed. He really failed. Big time, big time, big time.
Jesus failed.
Well, big time, man. He got murdered. He got murdered. He got strung up. I don't think that's like you'd do a workshop on that, would you? After if you could, he did come back. Would you sit and have a workshop and say, "Look, let me tell you how I succeeded and how I managed to achieve crucifixion. Let me tell you how you could do that yourselves. You could do that." Who's going to show up? Nobody's going to show up because that's not considered. My things are working here. That's not considered successful. Um, Successful is all about attachment generally. If you really do succeed in the world, it's because you don't have any attachment. And whatever you're doing, you could see it as, I mean, even if it's of the world and you're doing things that are like helping people with food or medicine or whatever, just little things they're doing. If you can be not attached to what that, means. And like, I mean, how do you know? I mean, for instance, you don't know, like someone shouldn't be starving, right? Right?
The world would agree with that statement.
But in spiritual reality, you can't say that because suffering on this planet has a lot to do with rock bottom and overall oneness and awareness and how we connect. It's all connected. You can't say that it's right or wrong. All you can say is it is what it is. Um, if you're guided to do that in the moment, to feed, I mean, that's to me what it all gets down to is in the moment. What are you guided to do? What do you die? I don't. Look at Jesus. I don't see Jesus didn't set up food banks. He didn't set up healing circles. He didn't set up anything like that. He practiced the present moment with the people he was in with, and he modeled it, and he was present, and all kinds of things came out of that. And a lot of people were very frustrated by that too, like thought that he should do something with that, like to the Romans and to the martial forces and create a better world. And he was like, No, that is not what we're doing here. We're being present, be in this world, but not of it. Because you are in this world and not of it. That's the reality. It's not like you have to make that happen. You are in this world, but you are not of it. The question is, are you
So
aware of that?
there it is. There's a topic for the Zoom call because that's what's truer than all the stories we've been telling ourselves. So if we can just get honest with what's true, is that we are in this world and not of it, and the only thing that's true is the present moment. I think Jesus was trying to simplify it for us, and I think that's the message. Because if
Right,
we can come in alignment with what's true, then maybe that's the answer to what's above our heads: freedom from suffering. Now, I
right.
don't know if that's true, but you know what? I've been in suffering for so many years, and I'm willing to take a look at that. And I think that's what I'm going to do the rest of this week. I'm going to take a look. I'm going to go back. I'm going to visit this recording, and I'm going to ask myself, maybe the only thing that's true is what's happening in front of me, and if I can align myself with that, maybe that's the answer to my freedom from suffering. I wouldn't have asked that question if it hadn't have been for the family fracture, if it wouldn't have been for the addictions, if it wouldn't have been for all that suffering. But now that I've hit enough bottoms in my life, I'm just willing to entertain that. So why don't we get together next week and see what I came up with?
Right. Because you
I
see,
did
if
it
you're in the
again.
present moment, if you're in the present moment, like death too, what's going to happen is you're going to be present to yourself now, and you're going to watch the world slip away. You're going to watch the world slip away. That doesn't mean it's going to disappear, but all the meaning of the world and everything will start to slip away, just like what
Man.
happens when we physically die, just slips away. And then you
Yeah.
sit there and you'll be scrambling like the creature in what's his face's Illusion's book, who's going like, "Whoa, he's getting tossed all around." But you got to know, I don't know if it's in that book, but you got to know that the creature that was doing that had to multiple times say, am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? Because as you let go of everything, physically and the attachment, you're going to be shaken in your boots and stuff like that. But then as no one wants to test. It's interesting. No one wants to test that. No one wants. Jesus said something like that in the Gospel of Thomas. He said nobody really wants to test the moment. This. He said all the signs, the face of the sun. I forget what it says, but you've never agreed to test the moment. To test the moment. Okay. Interesting because every one of us tests the moment at the end of space time and this existence. We all test the moment because that's all that's left. It's all that's left when we die is the moment. Nothing else. Everything else gets, you lose everything. You let go of everything, not just your physical possessions. You let go of everything. All that's left is I am when you pass out of here. I am. That's all that's left.
We
And it's perfect. It's the expansion of I am, but it's also the loss of everything else. And that's why people don't want to die. That's why people don't want to talk about dying, because they unconsciously know that all the bullshit, all the fake, all the creation, all the manifestation will dissolve away, will all go. Because at that point, when you're ready to go, there's nothing left but I am. And that's everything, actually. But all the other stories, everything that happens melts away. That happens now too. We're starting to see that happen now. I mean, that's happening to me. That's happening to me. I mean, and I still fight, I still see myself fighting it, but I don't fight it, I don't fight it like I used to fight. I mean, I don't fight it with any, I mean, I fight it in reaction. I don't fight it in intention. I never fight it in intention anymore. But I do fight it in reaction. I see my reactions to it. My ego's going like poking the bull, poking it, or poking the, what do they call it? Poking the something. It's poking it, saying, "Oh, okay." But there's no intention to do that to how I react. This reaction. But the reaction then comes into my attention. I go, "Well, this is interesting. I'm attached to that. I think that's reality, don't I? I think that's a problem. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, so practice it, Mm, we practice it. But the big thing is probably I think at first you got to practice noticing what the cost is of not practicing it. That's the one that starts really kicking you in gear. Is that if you start seeing like who am I? Who am I? What would I be like without that? What would I be like without that? Yeah. What would it be like to live without having to make things happen? What would it be like to have everything brought to you in the moment and you're revolved in love, blessing it, letting it move through you, being the center and the extension of the universe as it moves through you and in perfection. And you're this vessel of it. Okay. An immersion, immersed in not just the vessel, you're the immersion of it. What would that be like to live like that? To live where every moment, like the idea of procrastination, for instance, that word doesn't exist in my vocabulary anymore for me. I mean, I know it does for other people. For me, I don't do anything unless I'm guided to do it. And then I do it, and I know I'm guided to do it because I'm actually in it doing it. I'm doing it, you know. I'm actually, even when you and I set this up, I didn't plan it. We didn't plan it. But all of a sudden we were talking and it was like the door opened and we're doing it. Okay. That's how the universe works. We're moved, we're called to action. We're called to experience, but we're not just called, we're actually moved into it. We're actually moved into it. And if I'm not moved into it, it's very, very doubtful that I'm going to do anything. Because why? I don't have the juice for it. I'd be asking myself why. Why would I do that?
Dale, we gotta start wrapping things up because
Okay.
we're coming on 58 minutes. But I after I listened very carefully. Now I do the best I can because this is a lot of material to cover in 60 minutes. But I think I got it. I think I got the title for this. And as if we're not going to reinvent the wheel. It's die before you die. How does that sound? Thank you, Dale. They're part of this. I got to tell you honestly, I went jogging this morning, and I said, okay, it's a Sunday. Think about your day. What are you going to do? I said, oh, okay, today's Dale's at 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock Eastern time. And then I said, well, Kenneth, you're really not getting a lot of YouTube hits on these. And I said, that's actually an honor and a privilege because Dale, I think I want to. I told you for years, I'm getting all of your wisdom, all your messages archived. Finally, I got the software I can archive it. And I want to let you in on I think you're actually going to be famous posthumous.
Could
you're
be.
you're ahead of your time, and I'm sorry you have to wait until you die. And about 20 years later, they're going to say, "Who was that Reverend Dale Blackford?" All right, I can joke about that stuff with you, but you know it too. But no, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And part of it is if this message just gets into the Akashic records, which is basically what we're doing. Now it's time for me to stop talking. Reverend Kenneth Price, I've been here with Reverend Dale Blackford for an hour on Sunday, September 8th. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave your comments below. And more than that, visit the website, 2ormorere1.com. You can reach out. There's information to connect with Dale. There's information to connect with myself. And we want to hear from you. It's really important. This message isn't for everyone. But if this message is for you, we also want you to come on board. When you say 2 or more or one, we can have many different people, and we're willing to make this ministry fluid. So anyway, that's the recording for this first week. Actually, it's the second week of September. So that's it. Much love, everyone, and may the force be with you. I'll stop there.